And it says that we are live now. We are live right here on Collect All Monsters. Let me get myself together, folks. Hold on one second. First of all, thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all so much for being here. The gigantic Shin Showdown. Really do appreciate y'all being here. Yes, yes, yes. Oh my God. First off, let me just say, if you're new to Collect All Monsters, we're a monthly YouTube show where myself, Leslie P. Chambers, along with the great John Ruffin, I'll give him a Steve Harvey introduction in a few seconds. Christine Chapin, Kyle Young, and of course David Air. We get together every month talking about everything and anything and everything in the kaiju collectible world. And this is our third year going on with this YouTube channel. Woohoo! Yes, 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 yes. Amazing. Thank you so much for the people that help us get to this point. And this year, as co-hosts, we decided to branch out and give you side projects outside of the main show. And so today, we're giving you a gigantic Shin Showdown, where myself, Leslie P. Chambers, of course, my two guests here, again, I'm going to give a Steve Harvey introduction in a few seconds. They have a version of the gigantic Shin Godzilla from the epic movie Shin Godzilla. We're going to determine between these three which one is the best at the best. And of course, we welcome y'all feedback as well. So let me do my Steve Harvey thing and give a great, great introduction to my awesome co-hosts. Of course, you know them, you love them. Kaiju photographers extraordinaire. You see him every month on Collect All Monsters. One of the strongest and most educated and wise and just amazing pillars in our community. MyKaijus.com, and of course Shin Godzilla's #1 fan, the one and the only from Philly, John Ruffin. How you doing, Johnny?
I'm making it, Leslie. With that introduction, I'm doing great, and I appreciate your thoughtful, kind words always. I'm doing great. I can't complain. Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here to talk about Shin Godzilla and some of the great figures we have.
Absolutely, because I know Shin Godzilla is like your favorite movie. Of course, 74 being 1.5, but this film, Shin Godzilla in particular, is your most favorite film of all time. And of course, John has talked about that on numerous platforms, on our show, on his website, mykaiju.com, on Facebook. And I've always said that if you don't appreciate Shin Godzilla, have a conversation with this awesome brother right here, John Ruffin. Have an awesome conversation with him, and he will make you turn around on the film just a little bit. Because again, we will go into this later on, but he was there in Japan during a real life events that inspired the film in the first place. The Fukushima disaster, the tsunami, 3/11, all that stuff. This wonderful human being was there, so he has more of an attachment, an emotional attachment to this movie. And of course, over here in the West, a lot of fans tend to dismiss this film because it's not the typical norm Godzilla film. So hopefully, when we talk about this film, hopefully it'll make you come around on it and make you appreciate it just a little bit more. More on that later. And my last guest, of course, you know him as Matt Jacobson, but you know him better as Gojira 851 here on YouTube. Yes, yes, yes. What's going on, Matt? Welcome to the show. Welcome to Collect All Monsters.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks for having the show, and we're going to have some fun.
Indeed. Welcome, Matt.
All right.
Watchers, 10 likes, and someone talking about the Snapdragon stuff there, Leslie. So,
yeah, and since this is not on my channel and I can't go buck wild, so I have to be, what he was doing. He know exactly what he was doing because he knows I can't be the Def Comedy Jam evil version of Leslie right now because this is not my channel and I ain't trying to get us banned everywhere. So I just have to put a big smile on my face. But I will say he knows he's got an ass whooping coming come G-Fest. That's all I can say. Let me give a huge shout out to the chat before we go into the topic at hand. We have a few topics, at least a couple of them outside of the gigantic Shin discussion. So let me just give a huge shout out to the chat right now. Of course, our co-host, Kaiju photographer extraordinaire, also along with John Ruffin. David Dopko's in the chat. What's up, David? Liam Foley, Martin K. Of course, Godzilla Train 1090, Monster with Attitude. They have an awesome show going down in a few hours. More on that later. Of course, Gojira 851. Hey, Matt. How you doing, Matt? Joey Chapman, of course, Brutazilla, Snapdragon. Boy, I'm gonna kill your knee at G-Fest. I am so gonna kill your knee. But thank y'all so much who are here right now and people who may be coming in or filtering in later on. Again, this is a gigantic Shin Showdown, and in my corner, I have the X Plus Gigantic Series, Godzilla Store limited edition of the Awakening Purple Shin.
Beautiful.
Okay, of course, John has the giant Kaiyodo version of Shin, and of course, Matt has the X Plus gigantic standard version
Beautiful.
of Shin.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about, and of course, we'll get feedback from y'all wonderful people in the chat. Which one do y'all think will be the best of the best? But we're not going to do that right now, so don't vote right now. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Now, before we go into how we got our respective gigantic Shins, of course, we all know the great, awesome Akira Takarada passed away just recently. And plug, want to give you a huge shout out to the rest of our Collect All Monsters crew. They're having a tribute show to Takarada on the Collect All Monsters Monster Collectors Facebook group. It's at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening Eastern time, right?
Yes.
So they're gonna get together and bring some folks on that not only met with Takarada, got autographs signed by him, just people who actually met the man and have fond memories of the man. They're gonna have a tribute show to him tomorrow night on the Collect Those Monsters Monster Collectors Facebook group. And unfortunately, I will not be there because, truth be told, I never met Takarada. Now, don't get me wrong, that man is a part of at least 5 of my most favorite kaiju films of all time. I have somewhat a good chunk to say about him, but I never met him like somebody else did. So I'm going to step back and let somebody who actually met him and have more fond memories of him, or at least memories of him in general, come in and talk about their love for the one and only great Akira Takarada. But again, that will be on the Collect Those Monsters Monster Collectors Facebook group tomorrow night. I think at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So please go to that Facebook group, become a member, and you'll be a part of a great discussion involving the awesome Takarada. Now, before we go, like I said, into the Shin stuff, briefly, let's just talk about our favorite Takarada moment. It don't have to be your favorite movie involving him, but what is your favorite Takarada moment? And we're going this order. Matt, you go first, then John, then myself. So Matt, in your opinion, what was your favorite Takarada moment?
Favorite moment. Well, there's the original film where he's got the love interest. Just with that, I loved him in Mothra. I can't really pick a favorite. Just all the different films he was in. There's always something really nice about him in all the other films, so I can't really pick a favorite. Maybe even Mothra versus Godzilla, I'd say, is my favorite portrayal that he did. That's basically all I can say really about it. I can't really pick a favorite.
How about you, John? What's your favorite Takarada moment?
I think I'll make a couple comments. I think his zest for life and his love for the fandom and his smile and thoughtfulness. I didn't get to have any personal, contact with him. I was at G-Fest, but I didn't get to meet him. I loved and endured him, endear him in Ebera, Horror of the Deep.
Really? Okay.
Favorite, because that's what I saw most growing up. I mean, it seemed like that was on frequently. So that's one of my favorite Godzilla films. So that actually is my favorite role he played in. I love that. I could watch that all the time. So just an incredible person. And I mean, it was all I enjoy hearing what others, their experiences with him. It's been very difficult to mourn. This time is very difficult, and to see all the photos that we've been seeing and the tributes have been really awesome. So it just says a lot about him and the impact he had on all of us.
Absolutely. And again, it's been moving to see that. And because I remember when I got the news, I think a week ago, because at first I didn't believe it, you know what I'm saying? Because, we get hit with like hoax deaths of celebrities, and half the time we fall for it, and half the time it's not true. And I was so praying, because in our private chat on Collect All Monsters, I was like, please tell me it was a joke. No. And I immediately tried to find some type of source. I was driving that day, and then when I saw it come on my phone, I literally pulled over to the side of the road, like, no, this can't be true. Right. And I was like, let me pull it up. And what confirmed it for me is when I went to Wikipedia, and when it said Akira Takarada was
oh wow,
yeah, that And then when I saw Linda Miller's tribute to him, and she was fine for the most part. It was like a minute video tribute, but towards the tail end, she started getting choked up, and I was like, "That's it."
Oh, man.
Oh God, because again, Takarada he's in my favorite Godzilla film, Mothra vs. Godzilla. He's in my favorite King Kong film, King Kong Escapes.
Yeah.
He was part of the original Godzilla film, which spawned all these films in the first place. His place in history is he's immortal.
Yeah,
he's immortal. You know what I mean? But again, the outpouring of fans just really shows that this community, of course, there are times where it rears its ugly head. But this week in particular, ever since he passed away, really showed that this community can come together for a common cause. And the tributes for that man is just, it's great to see that. And I hope his family overseas sees that and knows that he wasn't just an actor to us. He wasn't just a character role to us.
Right.
We love that man. Yeah. We so love that man.
You know, we're hoping to see him one more time at least.
At least. And, and I was hoping, with this pandemic there, I was like, come on, pandemic, please, like, people do the right thing so we can get over this pandemic, so we can bring him back to G-Fest, so we can see him one more time. Because we know as these actors get older and older in age, it's going to be harder for them to travel. But, at the same time, he did come to G-Fest multiple times. People to get a chance to see him. So I'd rather we had a chance to see him versus not see him at all. You know what I mean? But my favorite moment from Takarada is from Mothra vs. Godzilla, and it's when they go to Infant Island to convince the natives to send Mothra after Godzilla. And, of course, they ain't trying to hear it. And honestly, you can't blame them considering what happened. But, the woman drives the point home that, we should be judged. Like, we don't represent all the bad people in Japan that denied you access from your egg. And then Takarada drives that point home even further. It's like, look, we're all humans. Everybody makes mistakes, but we don't represent those that made a mistake that's causing you to feel how you feel. And I think that's an idea, philosophy that we all can learn as human beings. Like, not everybody's, just because a few bad eggs pop up here in like a collective group doesn't mean it represents the group, and I think it's like a metaphor for the Godzilla fandom. Yes, there are a few bad eggs out there, truth be told, but by and large, the outpouring that I've seen from fans this week shows that this community is a golden community. It's a great community. It's a positive community, and you can't find no better proof than what we've seen here with the Takarada tributes. But again, please check out the Collect All Monsters Monster Collectors Facebook group, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific Time, and let's just make an honorable tribute to the one and only, the awesome Akira Takarada. Rest in peace, good sir.
Amen.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Now, go ahead, Matt. What's up?
I was able to meet Takarada at G-Fest one year. I can't remember exactly which year it was. Nice guy. I only talked to him for a few minutes, but, just awesome presence he had. And I actually remember waking up that morning and seeing Christine Chapin actually sharing on Facebook that it happened. And
that's how I found out too.
Sat up like Undertaker, right as she said it, like, wait, what? I didn't understand. So I actually tried to look it up myself as well on Google. Google wasn't saying a word about it. They actually were really late behind, talking about, it happening as well. So then a few hours pass, and I'm looking on Facebook, and everyone is reacting to this, and I can't find any way to, to confirm it. And then I read somewhere that he actually, it was a few days before that it happened, and it was just getting to us now. So there's so much information just not really available when it first came. So yeah, it was almost like in the Twilight Zone almost when it happened. Just an amazing person like that, just losing him like that, and just craziness.
Yes. And could I add? I found this fascinating article that he had written. He was a part of from Godzilla's 60th anniversary, and it's it was like an interview, and he had some really insightful words about Godzilla. I might share them tomorrow, but because of just time. But fascinating, really fascinating. And actually, I found a book that he had written about Godzilla as well, older book. So I'm going to look forward to just diving into his thoughts. And I, wish you could give everyone their roses while they're living, but I'm grateful that we got to see him and to have a part in his life in some way.
Absolutely. And again, rest in peace, Akira Takarada. And again, go to the Collect All Monsters, Monster Collect's Facebook group, and be there tomorrow night when they give, a great tribute to a great man and a great actor. Now, let's talk about our respective gigantic versions of Shin Godzilla. Yes, yes, yes. And of course, we're going to go in this order. Matt, then John, then myself. So let's talk about how did we get our respective gigantic? Matt, you're up first.
Okay. So I heard about this being released on Hobby Search a couple years ago, and I went to pre-order, and of course, it was sold out. Yeah, I think it was like the summer when they announced it, and it were immediately sold out. Which, by the way, if memory serves, I think it was like $600 some bucks plus shipping, so it was a little over $700 when I first, was coming out. And I missed it, and I was like, dang, what have I done? A couple months later, they actually released a second batch, and I jumped right on that and picked this up at Hobby Search, and they shipped it to me. I think it was late November, early December when it arrived, and a massive box. And this thing is amazing the way how it is, the stamps it has, the size, the weight. Which the only thing about the weight, the tail is starting to sag a little bit over the years, so the tail stand is actually really needed now. But it's a fantastic figure. I don't regret it at all. And and from what I understand, it had actually 2 more runs after that, just how popular this thing was. And then it started getting to the Ricks, but I'll let you guys talk about that. But that's my story with Gigantic Shin Godzilla.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't that your first gigantic?
I think so, yes. Then I got the Millennium one. Then afterwards, this is my first. This is my first gigantic. You're right, yeah.
Great way to get in. That's awesome.
So how did that feel to get your first gigantic in your hands? I know seeing the bill was like, oh God Almighty! But once you got your first gigantic in your hands, can you describe what that feeling was?
Gigantic. Overwhelming at one point because I was used to doing the 25 centimeter and 30 centimeter trying to get the tails on, but then trying to get this bad boy's tail on, plus how to position him, trying to hold him. It took me quite a bit to get the tail on this. That was the problem that I had, was just the tail. But the size of it is great. Just the way it is, just at first it was overwhelming, but it fits in just well. And I bought a special wire rack just to have him on it because the length of the tail actually fits the whole thing on. So,
Now, you have a few gigantics under your belt since this guy. Is he in your top 3? Is he your favorite gigantic, or is he in your top 3? Where does he rank in your gigantic collection?
He's in the top 3. I don't know if he's my favorite because I really like the Favorite Sculptors line 54. I think I'm a huge fan of the first one. So that one always stands out. I love Bio Goji as well. I got the standard of the gigantic 2019. I really like. I wish the pose was a teensy bit different, but I really like that. So he's definitely up there in the top 3. I'm not sure he's my favorite though. I'm gonna have to do a different introspective look at that.
Okay. Thank you for your input, good sir. John Ruffin, you're up next. How did you get your Kaiyodo gigantic version of Shin Godzilla?
Well, let me share the backstory. I have some slides or just some couple pictures I'd like to share.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. So it kind of all started in 2016. I had the privilege of going to Japan because I was on my way to Indonesia, and my job said, "Oh, you sure you got to stop in Japan before you come to Indonesia for work?" And so I was able to get there a week early and also get to go to Wonderfest, and it was just an amazing Shin Godzilla layout. And it was there I saw there's original prototype, prototypes for Shin Godzilla, and I believe, if I recall, the Kaiyodo had there was also maybe an announcement for their version of it, because there's a $10,000 version, that is available that I couldn't afford. But I missed out on the first run of the Kaiyodo Shin Godzilla, and I was like, no, it was devastating. It's devastating. I was like, I don't, something like that. How often are they going to do a run of? And then they came out with the kit version, and there was just no way I was going to get a kit. I'm not a kit builder, and to pay someone to build that would just be insane. So I had to they decided to release it one more time, and there was no way in the world I was not going to get it. And it was like, this is going to happen. And I found that Hobby Link Japan was going to carry it. And so I put in the pre-order, and this figures it's $900 and something. I'm not really showing any pictures here. It's like $900 and something for it. And I put in pre-order, and I don't know how many times they emailed me back. Are you sure you're going to get it? Are you really sure? And I was like, yes, I'm going to get it. You don't have to worry. I'm going to pay for this thing. And it came in, it with shipping, it was $1,200.
Wow.
Yeah, it was expensive. Well worth every penny. And I don't know if they have done another run, but it was awesome on Twitter watching the process. It would show, the manufacturing process. And I wish I had some of those photos. I should have pulled them aside. And so it's every bit of the replica that was created for Shin Godzilla. And there was no way, because of the impact of that movie on my life, there was no way in the world that if I couldn't get it, it was going to be because I failed and I messed up on the timing. But if I could do anything about it, I was going to have it. By the grace of God, I got it. So that's that story.
Now, with this acquisition, if they make any future gigantic Shins, are you going to try and get one, or do you think that yours is like the cream of the crop?
Well, I love the roaring X Plus Shin Godzilla. The standard, I love that.
Yeah.
Open mouth,
Okay.
I would love to have that. The prices, I can't afford $700, $800 gigantics, and with the shipping right now would be terrible. But I would definitely invest in that now with the layaway plans and things that we have that are available to us. If Kaiyodo did something else, I would do that. But it's only a few companies, X Plus being one of them. And I'm looking forward to that. I got to get my pre-order in for the gigantic Defo.
Oh yeah,
got to get that. I don't like all the sculpts, and so I'm really picky. I've been disappointed by the number of figures that I have. So Kaiyodo is the one I can always like. I've got the representation that I want. So
okay,
but I'm open to it. But I haven't seen anything that
wows you.
Talk about
that wows you, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and of course, in my corner, I have, of course, Cavity Colors. Got a rocket.
Yeah.
I have the X Plus Gigantic Series, Godzilla Store Limited Edition Awakening / purple version of Shin Godzilla. That's a mouthful. It's like 10 words. It's like saying the whole title of GMK. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
How I got this guy, I just got this guy recently, and I know I kind of dropped the bomb on our last episode of Collect All Monsters. I'm sorry if I swerved y'all when I said I didn't have that much to show, but Dave was like, I'm not falling for that again.
Okay. That's a great kit. Amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Now, of course, this the purple version that came out, I think, during Godzilla's birthday in 2020. And at the time, of course, I didn't have the money to get it at the time. And number two, these are limited to 500 pieces.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so you were able to get it through the Godzilla store, I guess, on that day, or get it through like a special lottery, I think like 5 days later or something like that, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, again, Shin Godzilla is very, very popular. I know over here in the West, he has a mixed bag, but over there overseas, he is like, I would argue he is Shin Godzilla in particular. He's about as popular as Ultraman. John, would you agree with that?
I go with that 100%. Yes, he's highly loved. That is a Japanese Godzilla through and through, and
Right.
and that in particular, I think, is quite popular.
Right. And so when this thing came up for pre-order, it was gone just like that. The only way you was able to get it, like if you were over there overseas, was able to snag it. But if you're over here in the West and you had to go through a third party or a middleman, it was kind of hard to get this guy.
Yeah.
I only know maybe only one person that's in my inner circle that has this guy, John Morrill. He runs the gigantic, figures collectors group or whatever. He has this one. I think his wife bought it for him. So again, his wife is a keeper. But I saw this. I was like, you know what? Because at that point, because I already have the standard gigantic version of Shin. You probably can see him back here. I have the 25 centimeter version, second form, the 30 centimeter third form. I have basically all the Defo reels, at least the fourth form, the second form, and the third form.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I enjoy Shin Godzilla, but I was at a point where it's like, you know what? After I get the gigantic, which was probably my last figure of the movie that I got, I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I think I'm done with collecting Shin figures for the moment. But when I saw this one, I was like, that does look kind of good. Fast forward to this year, 2022. And my job sent me to another terminal to work because I'm a truck driver, right? And they sent me to another terminal, and they kind of pay you extra for going outside your home base. And the experience there was horrible.
Oh.
And I hated it. I didn't like it. It was horrible. I love my company, but the experience there was like, ugh. So at the end, and I was like, midway through that week, I was like, Lord Jesus, if I make it through this week, I'm going to get me something good for myself.
That's right.
Right? So when I got back home, I saw this guy on Mandarake for a good price. It wasn't horrendously overpriced. It was a great price, and I was like, you know what? And when I saw it, I was like, at the time I didn't really have the money. I was waiting until my money from out of town that I earned would come in. Then I would use it to buy this if it's available. But when I saw it and I came back, I was like, and between the time I came back until I got my money, it was gonna be like maybe like a week. Whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, when I saw it available, I was like, there's no way in the world this thing's going to be available after tomorrow night. Right? A week later, I go online and it's right there. It is right there. I was like, is it a sign? If it is, I'm going for it. And that's how I got my hands on the gigantic version of Shin Godzilla, the purple version. And it's my favorite Shin Godzilla figure in my collection. And I think after this guy, I think I'm done. I think I've reached the peak of Shin, whatever. Of course, there are probably going to be some more great Shin figures coming down the line. But for me personally and for my collection, this is it. This is the cream of the crop. And to me, this represents Godzilla at his most dangerous point in the film, when he just belches out flame that levels an entire city just like that.
Yeah.
Could have done without the lasers, but at least that fire breath was really cool. And this really represents that to a T. And that's how I got my hands on this figure. So that's how we got our hands on our respective Shin Godzilla figures. The purple, Matt's standard red Shin, and of course, John's giant Shin. Now, for all those people out there that may be wondering, and we're going to address an elephant in the room, or a giant Shin elephant in the room, because there's a new company out there that's been producing their version of gigantic Shin figures, and of course, that's Omega Beast. Now, I'll just go first, just because I know I'm going to be like whatever. But the reason why Omega Beast is not in this conversation is, to me, I don't find the Omega Beast, at least the first Shin figure, I don't find that figure to be a good sculpt. That's just my opinion. At least not for the money that they're charging. You know what I mean? Now, don't get me wrong. I appreciate what Omega Beast is trying to do. They're trying to fill a void, because again, when the X Plus Gigantic Series figures come out, right, and X Plus, it's kind of like the premier game in town. Whenever they do become available, because shit is so popular, overseas as well as here, they get snatched up really well.
Yep.
So Omega Beast comes along, it's like, you know what? Let's fill in the void. Let's bring out our version of Shin Godzilla, a gigantic version. Let's try and fill that void. And I'm all for that. I'm all for more companies coming into the woodwork, giving us different products. So we're not just focusing or buying just from X Plus or from Prime One or wherever, right? I think more variety is better, right?
Yep.
But I have not been truly wowed by their first version of Shin. Now, the Furious Red version that's coming out, it looks like they tweaked the design a little bit, but that does look a little bit favorable. But by and large, I've not been too impressed with Omega Beast. But again, I appreciate what they're trying to do. Like the Kong I've seen, the 2021 Gigantic Kong looks great. The Mecha Godzilla 2021, which ain't my favorite version of Mecha Godzilla, but their sculpt of it looks great. But their Shin is something off about it. And I can't spend almost the $1,300 to $1,500 for something that appears off. So that's why I'm not really feeling Omega Beast. So that's why it won't be included in this conversation. But if you have an Omega Beast Shin Godzilla, then good for you. But that's my reasoning behind it. John, what about you? What do you think about the Omega Beast Shin Godzilla?
You kind of took the words out of my mouth. As soon as I saw it, I mean, I love the scale, and I like I'm okay with the body and arms and the legs, but it was the sculpt of the head and the mouth, and the head kind of is just a little too. I'm looking at a picture now and trying to it's something about the curvature is off. It doesn't work for me. That's my only criticism. Not every sculpt of Shin Godzilla is perfect. I mean, they have their flaws somewhere. And Shin Godzilla isn't perfect from every angle in the movie. I mean, there's, it's not necessarily the Godzilla we imagine or would just want, but the sculpts haven't all been created equal. And that one on the head, just the way it flows in, it's the way it flows from the dorsal fins to the back of the head, and it's just something about it. Almost looks like a Muppet, a Kermit's head kind of loses a little. It doesn't have enough angle to it, maybe. But that's my only criticism. Now, if I had one, that'd be awesome. But for the price, I'd kind of like the sculpt's not perfect. So,
Matt, what about you?
Well, I'm looking at pictures of it as well as we're all talking, and it's stylized a little bit. I can see the way how the top part of the jaw is a little longer than like the bottom part. Where I'm looking at a picture of the X Plus versus the Omega Beast. They're right next to each other, like roaring at each other, and you can tell the Omega Beast does look, more different than the X Plus. Plus, the X Plus seems to be more on with the actual paint job and the actual sculpt and way how it looks. So if you look at I'm looking at the purple version, where it looks like just the purple version all like encompasses the entire neck rather than it being separated skin and stuff. So it's different. It's not for me. I think if you don't own a gigantic Shin, it's perfectly understandable. This thing sold out very quickly. Its original run and all these other runs. If you do get the Omega Beast, I hope you enjoy it. It looks fine. I'm not really, into it, but if you want to, put your eggs in that basket, then more power to you. Just not for me.
And again, like I said, this is in no way, shape, or form a bashing of Omega Beast. I mean, nobody, or at least no company, is above criticism.
Right.
And again, like I said, I appreciate what they're trying to do. I appreciate they're trying to fill that void. I appreciate that they're trying to put their own hand into the collecting game and give people an alternative. I will always appreciate that no matter what they try to put out there. But again, their first version of Shin just wasn't really I wasn't really feeling it. And still not to a certain extent, but at the same time, that upcoming red one, it looks like they tweaked the design a little bit to make it look more favorable. But again, y'all got to start somewhere, whatever. But I guess the common consensus between the three of us is that it's like the first Omega Beast Shin is kind of like a step down against the X Plus as well as the Kaiyodo. But if you're able to find one for a good price and you like it, then there's nothing wrong with that, and that's good for you. But again, I want to address full bore why the Omega Beast will not be included in this conversation. Now, we talked about our we talked about Takarado briefly. We talked about how each of us individually got our respective Shin. Now, again, we're going to determine which one is the best Shin. We will leave that up to y'all, but we're going to save that later on in the show. We're going to circle back around to it. But now we're going to talk about the film just a little bit. And again, like I mentioned earlier, John Ruffin is like, again, if you have a certain opinion about Shin Godzilla, if you don't know what to think, if you're on the fence about it, I would say have a conversation with John Ruffin, or at least hear his testimony about the film, try to understand it from his point of view. Because I've always thought that, you know, even if you don't like a certain Godzilla film, it doesn't make you less of a Godzilla fan. But again, just because you don't like something doesn't mean that you can't appreciate it. There's a difference between liking something and really appreciate what that thing can bring to the table. And I think Shin Godzilla as a whole has been really misunderstood. People don't appreciate it the way that they should, in my opinion. So through this part of the show where we talk about the film, or our respective opinions about the film, maybe it'll make you come around on the film. Now, I don't expect people to hear what we have to say, and all of a sudden Shin Godzilla will go from being your least favorite Godzilla film to your most favorite. I don't expect that. But I always say that, you know, if you hear people's glowing praise of it and try to hear what they love about it, and maybe when you watch it again and you can see what they see, maybe you can appreciate it just a little bit more. You know what I'm saying? So that's going to be the focus of this part of the show. Now, of course, I have two different questions for my guests involving Shin Godzilla. And actually, you know what, Matt, I'll start with you, because I know for a fact that you love both the legendary Godzilla film or incarnation, and you love Shin, which is really cool to see, because, you know, there was this manufactured beef between Shin Godzilla fans and legendary Godzilla fans, which is stupid. That if you like legendary over Shin, you're not really a true Godzilla fan, or if you like Shin over legendary, you're not a real true Godzilla fan, which is stupid in my opinion. But you one of the fans that I know that actually love both, and I would dare say you probably love both equally. Is that fair to say?
I don't know if equal is the word I would use. I'll give you an analogy. It's like comparing steak to lobster, pretty much. They're both delicious, both complement well, but, you know, sometimes you're not in the mood for one over the other, pretty much. So, I really do love both versions. To be honest, I actually didn't like Shin Godzilla first time I watched it, because when I saw it in theaters, we had gotten the Japanese version, and it had the subtitles. And the way how the subtitles were shown off in the film, I'm trying to read it. All of a sudden, they would just go away, and then I'd be reading the wrong parts, and then I would miss big parts of the story. So I didn't get it when I first watched the film. And yeah, I actually gave the movie like a C- the first time I watched it. But then I realized, hey, I looked at this wrong. So I actually went back the next day or a day or so afterwards, and I watched it again, knowing what to look for, and I gained a completely different respect and perspective on the film. Absolutely loving it. So as far as, you know, comparing the films together, you know, one is serious, but also more of harking to kind of like the Showa and the Heisei versions, you know, trying more like the fun parts. Where Shin Godzilla is actually more of the respective, like Godzilla, the 54 film, parts of the 84 film as well, where it's trying to say something bigger than what actually Godzilla actually is. Godzilla, once again, is being used as the metaphor of a natural tragedy and disasters, and, you know, and war. And as far as I'm concerned, that's where the real disconnect is. Now, I don't want to take too much out of that, you know, because I know John has a lot to say about it, and I don't think I would actually, you know, speak about that in a correct way. I think I'd be missing a lot of the big strokes that need to be said. As films, I'd like to say about that, they have different feelings. You know, the 54 film, the 84 film, they're filmed in a different way, you know, where Godzilla is the natural disaster, pretty much. He's the big baddie, you know, he's the metaphor for all of the, you know, the terrors and stuff, you know, embodied into one thing. And stylistically, especially Shin Godzilla, it's filmed in a certain way. You know, it's trying to harken back, not really harken back, but it's trying to show, you know, the disaster side of what Godzilla is. And, you know, the way how the music is playing and the way how everyone is reacting. it's a disaster film, and not in a, I'm not saying it's like, it's bad. I'm saying, it's trying to show off in film version of real events as a Godzilla film. And I think that's a very strong point of the film as well. And to go into the way how the government was acting towards, when Godzilla was attacking, once again, I'll let John explain that better. It's very true to what actually happened in, 311 as well. So, as a film, I understand why people are turned off by this film. The 54 film isn't a film that I can just pop on at any time to watch as well. I have to be in the correct frame of mind to watch it. Kind of like, well, actually, no, it's more sci-fi. Never mind. But the 54 film, it's almost like a documentary almost, and just the way how it's done, the way how everyone is reacting, the way how it feels like a different film. Compared to like its successor, Godzilla Raids Again, that feels like they're going a step in a different direction. Now, I love that film as well, but it is different from the 54 film. I understand why people dislike that. Now, Shin Godzilla is, meant to be more like the 54 film. And, if people have different frames, especially when 2014 came out, was supposed to be a little more serious, but still had its fun parts to it as well. This movie was all serious, and I think that was kind of a small disconnect between Western audiences and Japanese audiences, where it was a disaster film for that. So, okay, I think I've gone far enough.
But I want to ask you,
it's great.
It's great. But I do want to ask you, because again, I know you love both versions of Godzilla, and they're both different versions of Godzilla. But I have to ask, because I know a lot of folks don't want to hear this, but it's the truth. Shin Godzilla was, in a way, kind of a cinematic response to not only the Fukushima disaster and the 311, but it was a response to 2014. Again, I know folks don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. Legendary came along. It was a great Godzilla film. At least it was a better artistic Godzilla film than the last attempt by another studio. And so Shin Godzilla is kind of like was made in response to that in a way, right? They saw that Godzilla had become somewhat relevant again, so they wanted to make their version of Godzilla a more serious version of Godzilla. And again, I know you have a fondness for both, but what does Shin Godzilla have that you appreciate that the legendary Godzilla does not have?
Well, the legendary Godzilla, what it's trying to be like parts of the 54 film plus the funner aspects of the Showa and the Heisei films, Godzilla fighting other monsters and having a more, I don't want to say lighthearted, attempt to have more of like, an action and a more, like spectacle, feel to it, where Shin Godzilla is mainly like the 54 film, where it is, based off of real events and actually, I don't know if the word commentary is the word I want to use for this, but it's kind of like a perspective that was used to make the film, and it feels kind of more real in a way. I know giant radioactive monster. Ooh, that can't be real. But the message it sends is what's the real part of it, and Godzilla, I believe, captured it, perfectly in the film. And then just the way how the people reacted to him as well. I understand it was, spot on the way I was in real life. So their disconnect is one's more for entertainment, the legendary verse. Fun films, love them. Shin Godzilla is something completely different. And like what David Dobko said in the chat, it's not made for foreign audiences. I agree, but also I've seen the film. I'm with a foreign audience. I do enjoy the film. I do love the message. Well, love the story. I do appreciate the message that Shin Godzilla does give us and show us.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. John, you're up next. And my question for you is, again, I know you love this film, and I know this film really touches you and resonates with you in a more tragic way. And again, as your friend, and you know what? Screw it. We're brothers, okay? We're all brothers, okay? Just because we don't had the same blood flowing through us, I still consider you and Matt, I consider y'all family.
Yeah.
And it will personally hurt me when I would see you talk about Shin. But at the same time, I'm fascinated by it. You know what I mean? Just the fact that you were there in Japan when that tragedy happened, and here you talk about that story, how you were up in the mountains and the radiation was forming underneath you, and you were worried about your students and the people, and just hear you talk about that really is not only tragic, but it's really, really fascinating. But my question for you is, and again, I know, like I said, you lived in Japan, you lived over here in the States, and of course, like I mentioned with the legendary Godzilla, and like what Matt touched on, legendary is more so of an entertainment type of film. He's more of an entertainment figure, whereas Shin Godzilla was taken into more a serious context. But since you have been involved with both cultures, in your opinion, Godzilla as a whole, who do you think means more to the American audience or the Japanese audience?
Wow. So who Godzilla? Who? Say that again for me.
Basically, like I said, we have a legendary Godzilla for the part of the MonsterVerse, and the Americans love the over top, not really a dumbed down version of Godzilla, but more so of a CGI type of take on the older films in a way, which is fine because a lot of people come to Godzilla for entertainment.
Yeah.
Do you have the Shin Godzilla side, which presents Godzilla as as he was originally intended as a metaphor? Because to me, the original Godzilla, at his core, the original Godzilla, he was meant to be a warning. He was meant to be a symbol of, if you mess with nature, or if you mess with it in the wrong way, or if you meddle with forces that you do not understand, nature will find a way to reciprocate that back onto you when you least expect it. So to me, Godzilla represents a stern warning. And a lot of Godzilla fans don't want to really get that. They appreciate, or they want to be more involved with the over-the-top entertainment version. Then you have Shin Godzilla, was more of a more serious version. Like I said, since you have been part of both cultures, Japanese culture, and you've seen how they love Godzilla or Shin Godzilla, because the Japanese went crazy for this film, as well as the American people went crazy for Legendary. But since you've been involved with both societies and both cultures, which one do you think, which society you think Godzilla means the most to? The Japanese society or the American society?
I think definitely means more to the Japanese society, because it's not just a financial bottom line driven creation. I can't watch Shin Godzilla right now. I haven't, because it's not entertainment to me. And Godzilla growing up for me was entertainment, and I never enjoyed watching or knowing that the original film was coming on. I avoided it. And I remember I would just capture, like David, we would record Godzilla on audio cassette, and I had recorded 54, and I remember playing it to my friend and my good friend Eric, and he cried because of just hearing the young children crying and exposed to the radiation after Godzilla devastated Tokyo. I think David said in the chat how Shin Godzilla was made. Yes, we enjoy it, but it was made specifically for a purpose, and for Japan and for what Japan had gone through, and it definitely it came after 2014. But unlike 2014, it goes where we don't go with our monster movies in ways. Shin Godzilla is birthed out of the tragedy of 3/11. 2014, you see the tragedy around the nuclear power plant, but it's two different messages going on. One, the Japanese, and obviously victims of the atomic bomb dropping. Look at nuclear power, nuclear proliferation as an issue, a problem. Their constitution is written. Obviously, they don't have an army, offensive army to go to war. And Godzilla, for them, it's tied. Will always be tied to that. And When living through 311, coming out of 311, I was like, I knew I needed a Godzilla. If I was going to see Godzilla again, I needed something different. And I've said this before, Shin Godzilla is not the Godzilla I wanted, but it was the Godzilla I needed. I kind of pulled up a quote that Higuchi said, and I kind of commented on it a long time ago. But he basically said that people ran from Godzilla, but they never faced the issue of accountability. He said he's getting at what is behind the imagination of our monsters. He said, in essence, as fans, it becomes our obligation to think more clearly and deeply about the meaning of the monsters we love. The lessons are there and our responsibilities become evident. And Shin Godzilla is so that. If I could share a couple more pictures from that deck.
Okay.
That would be awesome, Leslie. There's just a couple pictures. This was a year later after the tragedy. I was in Sendai. We had gone there to support the refugees for a couple days. And this is the shores of Sendai where the tsunami had come in. And many of the homes were still flipped over. They're still being cleaned up. But when you go through something like that, or think about those who tragic in New Orleans who just went through the experience of the tornadoes, and you lose lives, loved ones, land, your home, whether it's war and what's going on in Ukraine with the Ukrainians, or any. That's not, movies speak to, movies come out of those experiences to speak to people in those contexts, and they need it. And Shin Godzilla was that vehicle for me to express what was pent up in me and I had never got out. So I kind of, when I was watching it, I was just like, I was just taken aback. I was like, this is too much. All I could think about was just watching those tsunami waves come up and swallow up cars that were trying to get up the highway, and just seeing the airport in Sendai just underwater. And I remember seeing this tsunami evacuation on the ground, in Sendai, and the homes. I've got a lot of pictures of just the destruction. So Godzilla went back to his origins, and we can't we should like embrace that as fans, because we get to really what the meaning of these monsters are and their importance in cinematic history, and for the people that were, that they speak to directly. And Shin Godzilla shouldn't be reduced to a political satire. I would consider it, I think of it now as more like a historical drama, that Godzilla just becomes a personification of it, the metaphor through which for people to deal with it. It helped me deal with it. And I can't watch it because it's not entertainment. It's like reliving and having to go through that experience over and over again. It wasn't just one day. It wasn't just 2 days or a week. That will stick with me the rest of my life. And so in that way, Shin Godzilla is, to me, as I would think of 1954, are to the victims of the bombing, the H-bomb tests at the Bikini Atoll, the Lucky Dragon number 5, and obviously 9 years before, so the dropping of the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So I would say, but don't watch Shin Godzilla as entertainment. Go watch a couple hours on YouTube of what happened on 3/11. And when you watch Shin Godzilla, be empathetic toward the victims, and see, it'll change the way you look at that film. And you'll see it more as ritual. Godzilla's like one of many gods in the Japanese pantheon of gods. This animal from the sea that if if we keep doing terrible things to each other, thinking of more terrible ways to hurt each other, there's something that's going to come for us. And God help us get it under control. And at the end of Shin Godzilla, there in the middle of Tokyo is the radiation from the Daiichi nuclear power plant in Fukushima. What do we do with it? And what, 2.5 weeks ago, we had that big earthquake 3 days after the 11th anniversary of
That's right. That's right.
a 7.3, 7.2 earthquake, and you can't get away from it. So think of Godzilla more deeply. As you get older, you will, and you will maybe one day want a Shin Godzilla for you, for your situation. And that's the privilege, I think, is we have as fans. It's not just have an entertaining Godzilla, but something that'll help us deal with some things when life is difficult and out of our control. Think about a movie that begins with suicide. How is that entertainment?
Wow.
Right.
That's true. Thank you both for that. And honestly, the way I feel right now is how I felt after watching Shin Godzilla for the first time. It was the first Godzilla movie that ever made me speechless. I remember Sandra and I went to go see it, and we were into the movie, but afterwards, and normally when Sandra and I would go to a movie, whether it's good or bad, after we finish leaving the movie theater, we talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and we have a conversation about it, right? But that night in particular, I remember we left the movie theater and we went to Red Lobster, and between us leaving the movie theater, going to Red Lobster, we did not say one word.
Wow.
We were so moved by that film. Now I know Sandra, she appreciated the film, but she didn't really like the designs of the evolution of Shin Godzilla. But she was so moved by that film, as was I, and we just sat there and was looking at each other and like, what can you say after a film like that? And I think that's the beauty of Shin Godzilla, that it was so different. It was so radically different. And to me, as I've gotten older, as a Godzilla fan, I've been a Godzilla fan going on 40 years. My first movie was Megalon. I saw it when I was like 3 or 4 years old. I'm 44 right now. So 40 years, I've been in love with this character, these movies, these stories, and the whole community. And as I've gotten older, I've kind of evolved in my way of thinking or my love of this stuff or certain things. Like when I was a kid, I loved just seeing Godzilla and monsters fight. I didn't care about the humans. I didn't care about anything. I just cared about that.
Yeah.
As I've gotten older, I started to appreciate some of the messages in the movies, some of the characters, the human characters, like Takarada. That's why I've always said, when people try to throw at me that, the reason why we go to see Godzilla films is to see Godzilla, and say that's the reason why we should see these films. And I absolutely disagree, because I believe that a human good story and or a great good story, along with a great monster action, makes a perfect movie. So as I've gotten older, I start to appreciate some of the characters and, like I said, the movies and the messages. Now, at this point, especially after watching Shin Godzilla, I'm more of a fan and I'm more focused into Japanese culture, which is why I want to go to Japan. You know what I mean? Now, of course, the reason why I want to go to Japan started with Godzilla, but now at this point, Godzilla is kind of like secondary, because I want to see that beautiful country. I've heard nothing but great things about Japan. I know every place is not perfect, but by and large, I have heard nothing but positive, wonderful things about the country. It is beautiful. They are mindful of the elderly. They give respect to the elderly. They are mindful for other people. If you don't mess with them, they will mess with you. I just heard nothing but positive things. So right now, I want to experience Japan. And Shin Godzilla maybe more of a fan, where I'm at this point, I'm currently setting money aside to go to Japan. Awesome. which is you can't go to Japan on $500. Let's be real. It's a massive undertaking. But it's films like Shin Godzilla that makes me more want me to be more in the know about Japanese culture, how they look at things, whatever. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about Shin Godzilla, that you see step by step what would happen if they were dealt with a situation like this. Now, we all know a kaiju attack would never happen in real life, but to see it, step by step, what they did, and of course, some things that they did cost some people some lives, but again, at the same time, it was unprecedented. But again, it's just a story. The story is so impactful. Even me as an American, African American, I can identify with the Japanese, but at the same time, I was in that movie theater and I was sucked into every single moment, which is why I know for a fact, John, that it angers you when people, or at least Godzilla fans, kind of dismiss Shin Godzilla really for really shallow reasons. Why? I mean, and we've heard it before by many people. Why you don't like Shin Godzilla? Well, his arms are too scrawny. Okay. Why you don't like Shin Godzilla? I don't like the fact he looks like a turkey in one form and like a red-headed crackhead in another one. Okay. Why you don't like Shin Godzilla? I don't like the fact that they were talking too much. I don't like the fact that I had to read so many different things, and which are criticisms. I get that. But again, I think that's the reasons why you should enjoy Shin Godzilla, because it's so different. And again, I'm gonna get to you, John, with this question, but I'm gonna ask you, Matt. You're next on this. But does it really bother you that a lot of Godzilla fans dismiss this film for whatever reason, whether it's valid or not? Does it bother you?
I try not to let it bother me. Everyone has their likes and their dislikes. You know, people see things differently all the time. You know, some people like this more than that. Some people like that more than this. You know, if they don't want to like it for the surface level stuff and not really get into the the deeper meanings of everything, you know, that's their loss. And yeah, they're vocal about it, but you know, you just gotta let it go. I don't really I don't pay it any mind. I understand what I like. I understand what I don't like, and me being like saying to someone, "Oh, you didn't like that? Oh, that's just silly." You know, well, did you? I just try to let people be. You know, when people ask me, you know, why I truly like something, I'm as descriptive as I possibly can, and I try to give them a accurate answer, like all the time. Whenever I'm getting, if you ask me if I like something, I'll tell you if I like it or not. You know, like when I first saw the film, I didn't enjoy it because I was confused by the subtitles. Yeah, that's my fault. But then I went back and I corrected the fact, and I knew what to look for, and I enjoyed it the second time, and I understood what the whole story was. So as far as people not liking the design of Godzilla in the film, you know, it's just okay. There's other designs of Godzilla all over. You know, that now everyone likes all this. Like a lot of people, you know, bash on the '55 Godzilla. I love that design. So there's that. A lot of people don't like the '67 Godzilla. That's one of my favorites. So it's like everyone has their own feelings. You know, that's what makes us all, you know, our own little person. You know, our own feelings that everyone has. As far as don't like reading the subtitles, okay, wait a couple of months and watch the dub when it comes out on Blu-ray, which I have it on Blu-ray as well, and I watched it, you know, there, and it enhanced, you know, watching the film as well. Usually the dubs don't really help with Godzilla films, in my opinion. A lot of times the dubs, you know, take away a lot of the character, you know, the emotion. You know, I've seen a lot of dubs where it's just very flat. And they're just talking at you. They're not really acting. But with that dub that they did for Shin Godzilla, I feel they did a very good job. And you know, if you don't like reading the subtitles, just watch the DVD, or you have the I'm sure you can stream it on like Funimation or something. You can watch it with the English dubbing. So, but everyone's just their thing, and just I don't let these things like bother me the way how it used to. So it's sad, but that's just the way it is, unfortunately.
I just think that that again, people who have dismissed Shin Godzilla really need to go back to it. Again, I don't expect, you know, if you hear our positive testimony or our plead for you to watch this film from a different perspective, I don't expect this film to be, again, shoot from your least favorite to your most favorite. I don't expect that. But again, as I said earlier in the stream, just because you may not like it doesn't mean that you can't appreciate what it tried to do. And that's the point of this discussion about the film in the midst of the figure discussion. I want more people to appreciate Shin Godzilla. I want people to say, you know what? That's not the Godzilla I was used to. That's not the story I'm used to, but I appreciate the story and I appreciate what they tried to do. With that being said, John, this last question for you, then we'll go back to the figures. For those people that are on the fence about Shin Godzilla, they watched it, they formed their opinion of it, no matter what it is. What would be your pitch for them to go back and rewatch this film? Like, what should they do to potentially appreciate this film more than they do now? What would you say to those people?
realize that Shin Godzilla is like an entrance into Japanese culture. You can learn a lot about this contemporary film. It's like a peek into how the Japanese relate, how a collectivistic society is structured and its hierarchy. So if you're interested in just Japanese culture, you can learn a lot watching the film. It's also an introduction to their self-defense force and how they have addressed natural disasters before. I mean, they studied what the government had did in 3/11, and they integrated that into the film. So it has a timeline. It follows 3/11 like in all. That's why the labels on every ship and every person is so important, because it's relevant to how important those things are to maintaining, I think, Japanese collectivism and the importance of groups. And so it's an entrance into Japanese culture in a lot of ways. There's so much. I would also say and it might be younger fans. I don't know how older fans have really reflected on Shin Godzilla, but like younger fans that, it's not an entertaining Godzilla. Think about the impact that disasters and war have had on people's lives, and before you go back to Shin Godzilla and see it through the lives of those victims and those who lost family members in 3/11, and see it with new eyes. Go back, go on YouTube and watch some. There's footage I just saw that I hadn't seen before a few weeks ago from 3/11. And just like, oh my, it's just. And when you watch Shin Godzilla, it's like being thrown right back to those events. Last thing I'd say is every film comes out of a context. And unlike any other Godzilla movie before it, except for 1954, Shin Godzilla is so relevant for Japan. It's so Godzilla. Now, I don't know what the context was for Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, nor necessarily King Kong. It's really unlike Godzilla 54. It was not entertainment in the sense you were going to go in and after you come out, you want a Godzilla toy. The original Godzilla film, they were just dealing with radiation in their fish from the Bikini Atoll. You had the victims that came off the ship that were dying. So there was fear of radiation everywhere. So you go on a movie and here's this monster spewing radiation and women and children dying. And so change your mindset and you will be like, wow, maybe I don't think there's another Godzilla movie like Shin Godzilla. Oh, last thing. Have you seen the Fukushima 50 movie, Japanese film? To me, that was like watching Shin Godzilla all over again. Fukushima 50. It was like picking right up. It's like some detail. Because at the end of the Shin Godzilla, it was that special team that were wearing all the white emergency. Well, they were representative of the Fukushima 50 that stayed behind in the plant to make sure someone was minding it. But they were, their lives, wrecked. Just so. Hey man, it's a serious film. I want people to take it seriously and take it on that grounds and appreciate it in that way. Don't worry about the way Godzilla looks. What will radiation do to you? Not gonna make you look good.
Wow. You're so right. And honestly, and I'll wrap up the film discussion, at least this part of the discussion with this. Again, let me say thank you to John and Matt for providing that input. And again, John, I appreciate you in particular for coming up here and telling your side of the story, or at least telling your story in regards to this film. I can see it. I can see the pain in your face and your eyes, and I don't want to see that, but that's how moving that this story and this film is to you, and it's how it's important. But I also feel like, we need to talk these things out so we can at least, like you said, deal with the demons that haunt us.
I never got to be able to talk about 3/11. I never, for 5 years until that movie came out, after I came over, no one. We really didn't mention it in Japan when I went back because I came home after 3 weeks and went back like 2 months later, and you just ate and you didn't think about how much radiation was in the food. You didn't think about the radiation that was building up in the runoff water from the last rainstorm down in the town. You didn't, so when Shin Godzilla came, it was like, oh shucks, all that pent up anxiety, and everything else is, all the issues with the government and hierarchy. That's because this big, huge problem just dropped. I mean, just boom.
Is there a scene in Shin Godzilla? I know we talked about this off air, but if you don't mind talking about it again, and I'll ask you the same thing, Matt, maybe in a different way. But for you, John, is there a scene in Shin Godzilla that no matter how many times you watch, even though I know you're not going to watch it for the time being, but is there a scene in Shin Godzilla that literally brings you to tears every time you watch it, no matter how because the scene is coming. It's like, I can get through it, but every single time when you watch it, it just brings it out of you. Is there a scene in Shin Godzilla that does that for you?
Yeah, it's when they, because so when the earthquake happened, we got all the students out. The building was shaking. Our building sat on steel beams off the mountain, hanging off the mountain and shaking. We all ran, got everybody out the building because they went around for 60 seconds. And down in the valley, down in the town, the stories are just like, man, we thought our house was going to collapse. I mean, everything shut down. Why do I say that? And we came back and turned on the TV, see what was going on. And it was almost like 35 minutes later before the tsunami, there was any, nobody was thinking about a tsunami. I mean, but they had warnings that we're going to start up. So that it hadn't even, it was time between the earthquake and the tsunami. In that moment, because, they're bringing on, here comes the prime minister. That moment in the film when the prime minister gets up to the podium and he's talking, and here comes,
the aid. Yeah.
Yeah. And from that point on, when you start to see Shin Godzilla in that second form going up the street and the cars flipping up, that had me squirm. They're just like, oh man, it was like seeing it all over again. And seeing that scene where you see the leg of the Japanese dead underneath the debris, that is the leg sitting out from underneath that was horrible.
You know what? There's a comment in the chat I want to address right fast.
Mm-hmm.
It's from Enzyme 2000. He says, it's like Godzilla meets the Thing. It makes one see Godzilla like where he was supposed to be, a threat. And honestly, I agree and disagree with that statement as far as like Shin Godzilla. I agree that Shin Godzilla is a threat in this film, but he is like the best way I could describe Shin Godzilla as a monster. He is like a catastrophic inevitability. He's like, again, I know they try to drive home the fact that Godzilla in certain films, he's like a natural disaster, like in 84, they try to push that there. But in this film, you really get a sense of that Godzilla is in fact a natural disaster. And there was a YouTuber, I'm not gonna say his name because I don't want to bring any attention to it. But when he saw Shin Godzilla, he made a video saying that this version of Godzilla should not be considered equal to the other ones. I think he may have walked back that statement a little bit, but he said that because this Godzilla lacks a personality, that's why this film kind of fails. And again, I disagree with that because I know Godzilla a lot of the years has been a character. He's been a villain, anti-hero, hero, father figure, force of nature. But again, the original Godzilla, kind of like Shin Godzilla, was meant to be a warning, a natural disaster on two legs, basically. And natural disasters are like earthquakes. They're like tsunamis. They're like volcanoes. You never know when they're going to strike. You never know who they're going to kill. You never know where they're going to show up. Like tornadoes or hurricanes, you never know what they're going to do. All you can do as a human being, because they're larger than life entities that God created, all you can do is just prepare for the worst, hunker down, and let it come in, try to survive it the best you can, and then pick up the pieces after it goes away, if it does go away. And I think that that's what Shin Godzilla represents. I love how they just throw everything they can at him. Kind of like Monster vs. Godzilla inside 2000. I agree with that. I agree with that. That like I just love like the shots of when the helicopters are just blowing their bullets all in his face, and he doesn't change his expression not one time. He doesn't react to it. He just keeps moving and moving and moving forward. And again, I think the lack of personality of this version of Godzilla makes him probably one of the most terrifying versions of Godzilla, because you don't know what he's thinking. You don't know why he's doing what he's doing. All you know is that this thing is here and he's going to destroy everything, and we have nothing to do to stop him. And again, that just goes back to the original 54. So that's why, again, I highly just beg people, please go back and watch Shin Godzilla. Gain a new perspective of it. Hear what John had to say, hear what Matt had to say and what he's going to say, and just go back and watch the film. Gain a newfound perspective of it. And again, I don't expect it for it to be, shoot up your list in terms of favorite movies. But again, the point of this is to hopefully make you appreciate Shin Godzilla. And even after so many years that the film has been out, it is still really relevant. It is still so relevant, and it's so powerful. And again, at first I wasn't really a big fan of Shin Godzilla, and I'm kind of still not. But I'm more appreciative. That's the better word. I'm more appreciative of this film. I'm more appreciative of what it tried to convey. And I highly recommend everybody do the exact same thing. Matt, what about you? Is there a moment? I'm done. I'll get back to you. But John, but Matt, is there a moment in this film that's like your favorite, or a moment that kind of like resonates with you on a personal level?
Favorite moment of the film is when he had his true awakening, when the stealth bombers, attacked him. And I'm a fan of the lasers. I thought they were really cool and a nice addition to Godzilla. And I thought it was really, and the tail thing was really cool as well. As far as the movie, really, it had to be with the human characters. I know it's like, for places to bring in, quote, experts to try and solve their problems, and they not know any more than the people on the floor right now. Like the Prime Minister, I believe it was, he brought in the 3 experts, and they're like, oh, it could be this. And he's starting to like tap his fingers on the armrest of his chair in anger. And the next person's like, oh, I think it's this thing. And then he taps his fingers again, showing his, aggravation, And then right afterwards, he goes out. He's like, well, that was a bunch of nothing. They didn't tell me anything. People try to bring in experts and know-it-all to solve their problems, and them not doing it. Like that part actually, sat with me, and it was a very interesting part. So, and also a kind of, I don't know if I'm really jumping the gun with this, but the way how the ending was set up with the tail and the little humanoid, hybrid kaiju-looking things, it's kind of a way of almost like hauntingly saying, this is going to happen again, in a way. So, I don't know if I read into that too far. Johnny, see you agreeing with me. It's like a haunting way of saying prepare for the future, pretty much. So, yeah.
You know what? Before I go to you, John, and then we'll wrap up, let me ask you this like fantasy booking type of question. But if you were writing a story, what do you think happened after they froze Godzilla and the movie ends? If you were able to write a continuation of that, what do you think happened? Do you think he came back alive again? Do you think the Americans came in and bombed him? Do you think that he evolved into another form? What do you, if you were writing a story, what would you have done? Matt, go first.
All right. So, as a Godzilla level film, for entertainment purposes, I had fantasy booked in my head that the humanoids actually thawed out first, because I don't know if I read this right or I understood it correctly in the film. Pretty much the freezing agent was supposed to keep him frozen for 2 years. So the tail slowly starts to thaw and the temperature starts to rise. The humanoid things actually, come alive, and they actually break off the tail and they actually go off into different areas in the world. Soon, Shin Godzilla thaws out and he slowly walks into the ocean. We don't see him again. And the hybrid kaiju things, they actually form the new versions of the Toho monsters. We get a new Godzilla when it starts to feed on different DNA. One goes into the mountains. We get a Gyra. Or no, we get a Sanda. One goes into the ocean. We get a new Gyra. One kind of comes in contact with an insect, kind of becomes like a new Mothra or a Kamacuras, or just the idea that this would be awesome. Like Toho verse for these monsters to grow, and then we get a whole bunch of new monster films around that, and then the final.
I like that.
I love that.
And then Shin Godzilla wakes back up and comes back to Japan, and then all of those new monsters born from Shin Godzilla actually go to Japan and fight this Godzilla. That was like from a pure entertainment spectacle, way of seeing it. As what the film was actually trying to tell, I don't know if I would want to make a sequel to it. I know for a long time they were talking about, there was a sequel. They were going to do a sequel, and then they canceled the sequel. Oh, there was never a sequel. After everything that we've seen, I don't know if I would want to see a sequel to Shin Godzilla. Now, for entertainment spectacle, then my idea. But, as far as trying to live up to what Shin Godzilla told us, I would leave it alone.
You know what? That's a great point, because if you really sit down and think about it, there's one reason why we got Rodan, then we got Varan, then we got Mothra, then we got King Ghidorah, then we got Ebra, Kumonga, Mechagodzilla. There's one reason why we got all those monsters, and that reason was Godzilla. So the fact that you presented that scenario, I never really thought about that before. I honestly never thought about that before.
That's an idea.
And at first, I was against a sequel to Shin Godzilla, but I would love to see that. Absolutely. John, what about you? If you were writing the story, how would you continue the story based on that last shot from Shin Godzilla? Or would you just leave it alone? What would you do?
I'm going to go back and comment and relate it. I wanted to comment on the thoughts about Shin Godzilla and bring it into, it might be more difficult pill to swallow. One thing to remember about Godzilla, now, as always, you have Shin Godzilla kind of comes out of as a natural disaster in 311. But Fukushima was the result of human neglect. And they knew that the plant needed to be on higher, built higher, and the tsunami wall. There's a number of things they knew in advance before building the plant. And so it was one thing to go through this earthquake and tsunami. Japan has been through that. Can't do anything about natural disaster. What am I trying to get at when we watch Godzilla, especially the original and Shin Godzilla? The truth it turns out to be, as also with Frankenstein and most monster movies, horror films, we're the monster.
Yeah, exactly.
We create the monster, and the monster is a victim often. I mean, Godzilla got exposed to the H-bomb like the victims of the Lucky Dragon #5. And then he comes up out of his lair, and he becomes a victimizer. So he goes from having exposed radiation to spewing radiation. And if I translated it correctly, Takarada-san said in his article, Godzilla's a victim. So when watching Shin Godzilla, we have to learn to empathize and identify with victims and understand the context of our monsters and what created them. We did. We make the Frankensteins. I say that to say, if I'm to have another Shin Godzilla, I mean, like Matt said, well, that's genius. You could take that. But each one of those stories of the new Mothra, the new Sanda, etc., they better all be, if you notice, they're all victims in some way to human neglect and we messing with the climate. We are not taking care of the planet the way we should. We got a lot of monsters to deal with. And so we can't forget that. And that's a part about Godzilla 2014. There were kernels there. But we always get away from, in American iterations of Godzilla, we don't want to look at our victims. Look at what's going on right now in Ukraine. Look at the women and children and innocent people that are dying because there's a monster. How do we make our monsters and then we can't get rid of them? How do you make a Putin? Someone that doesn't care about killing children. That's what these movies are about. And that's what we have to be uncomfortable with, our monsters. They're usually our victims. They come back to get revenge. Then we just want to wipe them away. So the movie, a sequel to Shin Godzilla should be just as tough to watch as the first one. Sorry, that's my little 2 cents.
Oh no, you're fine, and I appreciate that, and you being totally honest. But you brought up a great point that the reason why we have these monsters is because we're the ones that bring them to our world, and then we end up killing the thing that we end up creating. And the same thing. Kong, I was going to say that Kong. You took the words right out of my mouth. Kong is like the same thing. He was king and god on his island. They saw him. Wow. They saw him no more as like a savage brute from a prehistoric land. And when they brought him back to America, you take an animal like that, put him in a civilized situation, and he's going to try to do what he can to, preserve his life, and he ends up getting murdered on top of that. So between Kong, the original Godzilla, there's really, and again, for all those people out there that look at these older films as like kiddie, just not serious films, there are a lot of messages in these films. The original Kong has one, the original Godzilla has one, Mothra vs. Godzilla has one. Yes. Hedra, as off the wall that film is, it has a message about pollution. Biollante has a message about the fears of biotechnology running amok. There are so many things in these movies. Yes, are there a few Godzilla films that are strictly for entertainment? Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. But like Shin Godzilla, there's nothing wrong with the Godzilla film that makes you think.
Yep.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So hopefully without my commentary, with John's awesome commentary, with Matt's awesome commentary, hopefully we can convince y'all, if you're on the fence about Shin Godzilla, or even if you watched the film once but you just turned off and you're not gone back to it, go back to it this evening or tomorrow, whenever you have a chance. Hear what we had to say. Apply that to when you watch it, and hopefully, maybe you can appreciate it just a little bit more, because the film is a lot more than a lot of people give credit for. But I want to give thank you to John and Matt for that awesome discussion on Shin Godzilla. We can go on about it for hours and hours, and maybe we will at some point in like a future show. But for right now, hopefully that will be enough to motivate people to go back and watch it. Now, with that being said, here we are. Oh, Sandra's in the chat. Hey, babe. Hey, how you doing, sweetie? All right, now the time has come. We got 27 people in the chat right now. Awesome. And of course, again, going back to why we're here in the first place, the gigantic Shin Showdown. Truth be told, again, Sandra wasn't really a big fan of Shin, but when she saw this, she was like, yeah, you can keep that in the house. She loves this guy. She really does love this guy. But now it's up to you in the chat. We're going to leave it to y'all to determine between my X Plus Gigantic series, Awakening Purple Shin from the Godzilla Store, Matt's X Plus Gigantic series, standard version of Shin, or John Ruffin's giant Kaiyodo version of Shin. We're going to do it. I'm going to count it down, and we're going to do it like in a minute increment, or hold on, let me get my stopwatch. Actually, you know what? I'm looking at the clock right now. When the clock strikes, it is 1:28:27 seconds, an hour, 28 minutes, and 29 seconds now. When the clock strikes at 1:29 on the dot, and I'll let y'all know, we're going to go for 1 minute. And in the chat, type in the person's name who you think has the best Shin, or who has the best Shin overall. Or if you don't have one, which one would you like to add to your collection? My purple, or John's Kaiyodo, or Matt's standard? So type in, actually, you know what? I need some more time. I'll let y'all know. But type in either my name, Leslie, for the purple, John for the Kaiyodo, or Matt for the standard. Okay, and I'll let y'all know when to type that in. All right, so type that in again. Leslie, John, or Matt, type in your opinion on what between these three, what is the best version of gigantic Shin Godzilla. Type that in right now.
Does it have a picture? Could you share it so they can have some justice? I did this just for us.
You trying to buy people? That's all.
Yes,
that
I
is.
am. That's what I'm here for. So they can see it and live in. So they can judge it well. Can't go wrong. But thank you, Wander This World 97. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Showing that looks like the Ichibanzo Shin Godzilla as well. You ever see that one?
No.
It's a little shorter than 30 centimeters. It's like a solid figure. I have the standard one. There's also a purple one, and they made a frozen version as well. They're neat little figures.
I gotta check that out. Yeah, because your mine is right here, but you really can't enjoy its glory from where I have it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give more people more time to type in. I'm gonna wait until like 1:32, and we've had a few people type it in. So again,
you would not want a perfect replica of the prototype. Oh, that wonderful detail, and
you are so trying right now. Or if you want the one where he was most destructive, you can't go wrong with the purple, or as I call him, Barney on steroids. This is Barney on steroids.
You brought radiation into your house.
I sure did.
You got him in meltdown mode.
I love it. That's why he's staying up here.
And what I do love about the Kaiyodo, it's not heavy. It's very manageable. So that they did a great job when it came to the proportions and the weight and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll
tell you what, I'm gonna wait until it's 1:31 right now. I'm gonna wait till 1:33. After that, I'm gonna shut down the voting, and then I'll tally up the votes in the chat at 1:33. So, folks, you got like an hour, not an hour, but shoot, you got like a 1 minute and 10 seconds to type in the name of the person you think has the best gigantic shin. Myself, Leslie, Matt's, or John's.
Now, you would really want all of these in your collection.
Yes. Absolutely.
Because I'm going to tell you, it's nothing like that standard Shin Godzilla and the open mouth roaring purple. I mean, I want that open mouth purple or just an open mouth standard or what. That it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
I'll tell you what, when I come up there, when Sandra and I come up there in May, I'll tell you what, I'll bring them so you can take some photographs.
Oh, that would be awesome.
You can take some photographs of them, make some posters or some merch for them. Yeah, I do that.
I finally set up my a little studio in my basement to really take some bigger pictures, because I'd shoot stuff on little surfaces. So
cool. That's what's up. That's what's up.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm gonna bring them. The last time we came up there, we brought the gigantic 2019 and my M1 giant.
Yeah, I wish
and those two took up my whole daggone back seat. I got a sports car, so but it was fun. It was a fun trip, and we can't wait to see you in Philly. I
look forward to that. So man, maybe we can. Oh yeah, I plan a couple things. But we just
please do. Like see your people or your church people. Just basically what we did, but we'll have more time this time because we're gonna be up there for an entire day. All right. That's it. I'm closing. I'm shutting down the. The voting now. So if you didn't put your vote in, here's what y'all had to say in the chat between myself, John, and Matt. These people. Okay. Let me just tally up the votes right fast. Okay. Let's see. Leslie 1, Leslie 2, Leslie 3.
So
seriously, I'm not making it up.
Right.
Let's see. Matt 1, John 1, Matt 2, Matt 3. So there's 3 Matts so far, 1 John and 3 Leslies. Okay. 2 Johns, 3 Matts, 3. We gonna have a 3-way tie. Jesus Christ.
That would be awesome. Be very Trinitarian.
Oh, and Kaiji May Added just said Leslie.
Come on, somebody. felt.
Actually, I think that's it.
Oh.
So according to the chat, more people voted for me. Thank you, God. I won something because I lost on the Kong thing. Oh my God. I've been losing with Kong and I've been getting it for the past year. So finally I won something. Thank you. Thank you. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all so much. So according to y'all, you think that the X Plus Gigantic series, Purple Awakening version of Shin, is the best one out of these three. But again, like what John said, if you have this, or if you want this, if you want the standard red, if you want the Kaiyodo, you really can't go wrong with any of these awesome gigantic versions of Shin. As long as you get one between mine, John's, and Matt's, you will have an awesome, just amazing representation of a gigantic version of the awesome and amazing Shin Godzilla from the brilliant, awesome film with the same name, Shin Godzilla. And that's what we're going to do with this episode. Again, I want to say, I can't thank you, John, enough for going through your story. Again, I know it's emotional, highly emotional, deeply emotional. But again, I will always advocate for people to know more about Shin Godzilla through you. And hopefully, when you learn like what we have learned so far, I'm sure there's a lot of ground that John even has not even covered yet. But still, the fact that you're able to tell your story, going through pain and going through, I'm sure you were fighting tears at a couple of points during the show. The fact that you were brave enough to still tell your story and be brutally honest about it, I really do appreciate it. And again, you have not seen the last of us talking about Shin Godzilla on this show of Collect All Monsters or whatever. So I want to thank you personally, John, for being here, telling your story, and just being a part of this exercise of determining which gigantic version of Shin is the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And of course, Matt, thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed being on Collect All Monsters for the first time. Of course, it will not be your last. It will not be your last. You would definitely come back. As a matter of fact, gotta plug it. Don't know when we're going to do it, but we're definitely going to do it sometime soon. These same people, myself, Matt, and John, we will get together and talk about the Sakai 91 Godzilla from S Plus. We're going to talk about all three different versions of the Sakai 91. The Kaiyodo version. No, my fault. Hokkaido version. Or as they say in King Kong versus Godzilla, the Hokkaido. The Hokkaido version. The Hokkaido version, the Shinjuku version, as well as the most recent version, the Abashiri Fierce Battle version. We're going to talk about all three of those versions of the 91 Godzilla, courtesy of X Plus and Yuji Sakai, as well as the fourth one that's coming. And you already know about the fourth one. At least you've seen it online.
Oh, there's a fourth.
Sakai did a fourth sculpt. Now, mind you, it's labeled as 92. But remember, the 91 suit didn't make an appearance in that film when he fight Batra. So the sculpt of the Godzilla, even though it's labeled 92, is more so the 91. So to me, technically, that's more so a 91, even though it's labeled as 92. And you already know, Sakai made a sculpt of it. It's only a matter of time before X Plus gets their hands on it. So, we'll talk about that when that time comes. So before we wrap up out of here, before we wrap up, before y'all plug anything y'all have on your own respective channels, later on this evening, on the Monsters with Attitude show, on the Monsters with Attitude YouTube channel, please go to their YouTube channel, subscribe. Awesome guys, Godzilla Train 1090, Cody, Ben, Charles, just great people. Great, awesome Godzilla fans and collectors. They're doing the show tonight, talking about the top 10, in their opinion, the top 10 X Plus 25 centimeter figures. And I think Samson West is going to be a guest on that show too, because he's a huge 25 centimeter fan. So before we go, I want to ask y'all, Matt, John, Matt, you can go first, and John, then myself. In your opinion, what are the top 3 25 centimeter figures from X Plus, whether you have them or not? In your opinion, what do you think is the top 3 best 25 centimeter figures that X Plus has ever done? Matt, go first.
My favorite is the 65 Godzilla, and I got the Rick with the little controller. The 2019 Rick, the blue lab dorsal plates, and I really like this guy. The 73 from Megalon. Yeah.
Okay.
We're getting some extra love from Showa with a 25 centimeter, but those are my 3 picks right now.
Oh.
How about you, John?
I have to say the guy, 25 centimeter Geigen. It's like,
oh yeah,
I love it. I mean, I love shooting it. It's just perfect.
Yeah, 1 sec. I'm still listening.
And then I love the 25 centimeter Jaguar.
okay.
And I know he's not Godzilla, but these in the 25 centimeter line are like awesome. And
Absolutely.
I do agree with Matt about the 65. It's awesome. 25 centimeter. Now, I don't. See, the Sakai's come in under 30, but they're usually over. They're like, are they? Because I would. So I guess they're the 30 centimeter line, so that wouldn't be right. Because I always think about the. I'm not gonna say this, but the Godzillas in the 25 centimeter line, some of them have too many imperfections for me. No, it would be the 54, Sakai 54.
Okay.
Is that what is that?
I count that
as?
Is actually
considered
registered
a 30?
Actually, you know what? It's actually registered as a Sakai because they did do a 25 centimeter 54.
Line. Yeah, right.
And which didn't look that good to me. I mean, but there are plenty of other 25 centimeters to talk about. Mechagodzilla 75, 74, Megalon,
have that.
King Ghidra, Hedra.
Oh yeah, that's what I want to. Yeah, King Ghidra 64.
4?
Yeah.
Which one? The golden or the red, white, and blue one?
I wish I had that one. I have the golden. I love the golden. I like it. I think it was an improvement over the 68 because of his head positions were not so low, and it shoots so well to me.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Okay, for me, my top 3, not in this order. I think the 25 centimeter 1999 Godzilla. It is something about that figure. Oh my God! It is something about that figure. They just the eyes are perfect. The skin tone is perfect. The purple dorsal plates. Oh God, I love that figure so much. Oh God, and there's plenty to choose from, but something about the 25 centimeter 99. I was like, wow. All right. Next up, Biollante, the 25 centimeter Biollante. And probably number 1 for me, and he better win tonight. I'll tell you this much: he better win. Legion. He better win.
Legion. Legion is probably the most perfect.
And there have been other great 25 centimeters out there. Destroyer. Destroyer's out there.
Yeah.
Mothra 92. Mothra 64. I'm looking around my room.
I always think of them as 30s, but they're actually not. I mean, it would be too big.
Yeah. How about the Crawling Varan 1958?
I wish I had that. Yep.
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
How about the 71 Godzilla with the battle damaged eye? Why don't you pick him, Johnny?
Because I love that figure, but I have issues with him. I have my issues with him. He's a little thin. I know he needs a thin suit in certain places, but I just wish there were other photos they worked from on some of the 25 centimeter Godzillas. That's all.
How about Descador? Descador.
Dope. Yeah, I love him. Awesome. Really good on his fears. I wish I had him.
Yeah. So
there are a lot of 25s. I mean, that are not Godzilla that I'm not even thinking about. But
yeah, or the Gargantuas. They were a cool 25 centimeter figure.
Yep.
Matt has it right there. I'm gonna blow him up. Hold on.
He is awesome. He's great.
Yes.
You know what? He's this looks man.
Greg Better's asking in the chat, Leslie, did you already do a review on the Purple Shin? Not yet. Hold on 1 second. I have a lot of stuff coming far as like reviews of my channel, and I'll talk about that momentarily after Matt and John talk about what they're going to plug on their respective platforms. But again, the Monsters with Attitude show going down tonight. I think it's going down at 8:00. The Monsters with Attitude YouTube show. Again, Godzilla Train 1090, Adrian Settle, Eric Stope is part of that crew now. Cody, Ben, Charles, just great folks, and they're going to talk about from their perspective and from the polls that they put online on Facebook, what is the top 10 best 25 centimeter figures from X Plus? Go to their show, get them a like, get them a follow, give them a subscription. You will enjoy that show. But from our perspective, you've heard Legion, Biollante, the 99 Godzilla, Jet Jaguar, Gigan, the 71 Godzilla. There's plenty to choose from, but find out tonight which ones will be considered the best of the best. And good luck, guys, because that's a topic I'm not going to touch right now. That's hard. That is hard. So good luck to that. Good luck to that. All right. Again, thank y'all so much for being here. So before we get up out of here, Matt, do you have anything you want to plug or anything you're working on that you're going to bring forth to your channel real soon? The floor is yours, good sir.
Okay, so I have 2 videos. A lot of people have been doing the video of their journey into the Godzilla fandom. I want to do that. Also, some gaming videos just to show off some games that came out recently. But also, I have lots of stuff not really in transit yet, but a lot of things pre-ordered and pre-bought. I have the 91, the new one. Standard. I got that through Kaiju Live, and just waiting for it to arrive at them so I can get it and then review it so we can do our future live stream on it, which I can't wait. It looks awesome. I have the SH Monster Arts Mechagodzilla 2021 and Godzilla 2004 also on lockdown. They should be here hopefully sometime in April or May. Also, I'm on a payment plan for the Godzilla vs. Gigan 25 centimeter set, which I can't wait for that. That looks really good. We just got some news yesterday, or was it this morning? This was yesterday where we got the new Defo reels coming. We got the 73 Godzilla, but the standard, and we have the Rick that has more like a samurai motif, which I might end up getting both of them because I love swords and samurai and all that stuff, so I might end up getting both. Also, Titanosaurus, which is standard, just Titanosaurus.
I had to do it.
I'm glad you did. That's gonna be dope.
I love Titano, but go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to do
that. The Rick comes with the little submarine.
That's the name of it.
Or no, not the one. The I guess the science one later in the film. So lots of great stuff coming up soon. Stay tuned. I know I haven't made a video in a while, but I haven't really had anything to talk about. So yeah, just waiting on stuff to come, and then some more stuff. Hopefully next month I'll have more videos up.
How about you, John? You got anything coming on mykaiju.com?
Hey, that's where most of my energy usually goes. So every day, since the beginning of the year, I do a small little translation of something from a Godzilla book, and I'm always surprised. I find something I didn't know that's pretty interesting. So I invite you. I publish a new one at 7 o'clock every morning, every day, and it's fascinating. Some really fascinating things I didn't know. So I invite you to go mykaiju.com. And also, there's a lot of photos I don't get to share on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. So if you follow me on Flickr, you might you like some of the photography that I do. You'll see some stuff there that's never been put on social media, except Flickr. And that's pretty. And I hope everybody's getting their little Godzilla.
Singular point, Ultima.
Yeah, this is all. These default figures just keep getting better and better. So if you get them, he's great. And if you haven't gotten your little Marisan fig, please, from Super 7. So there's a lot of good. Oh, and I got this the other day. It's a Godzilla folklore.
Oh, okay.
And another great book. Let me see if I can grab it real quick. That came out in 2016. I'm interested in reading. Shinji Higuchi, one of the directors of Shin Godzilla. This is called Kaiju Literature. So it's various authors who write on kaiju. and tell stories and related. So this is going to be interesting. I'm going to read what he says and see if it relates to Shin Godzilla in ways that I maybe didn't know before. So I'm going to post some of that stuff on mykaiju.com too. So if you're up to reading some stuff, it'll be there. And that's it for me.
For me, again, I'm going to piggyback off of what Matt said. Those Devil Reels that was announced yesterday. Oh my God! The one that I was excited the most to see was Titanosaurus because I'm a huge Titanosaurus fan. I'm double dipping. I'm getting the Rick and the standard. Sandra loves Titanosaurus too, so we're probably going to, she'll have first dibs. So whatever she chooses, I'm going to get whatever. So if she chooses the Rick, I get the standard. And I think, from what I understand, I think the Rick is going to come with 2 sets of arms where you can display him without the submarine, and it's going to come with a separate tail where you can display the tail open or closed. That's why there's like a big jump in price between the standard and the Rick for those who don't know. But I'm getting both. Definitely get the Death for Real 73. All I know is that I'm glad that the 70s films are getting a whole bunch of love. And with Titanosaurus, and I said this to Brutazilla yesterday on the phone, but with Titanosaurus, and we already know that Megalon's coming, with Titanosaurus, basically every single villain has a Death for Real version of that monster in the Death for Real line. We got a Hedra, we're getting a Gigan this year, we're getting a Megalon, we got both Mechagodzillas, and now we got in Titanosaurus. Not to mention, we got the 74 Godzilla, we get the 73 Godzilla, King Caesar, we got King Caesar. So the only ones we won't have is basically Anguirus and King Ghidorah and the 72 Godzilla. I can understand if Anguirus and King Ghidorah don't get made from 72, but we got to see at least the 75 Godzilla from Terror and the 72 Death for Real Godzilla from Gigan. But again, with Titanosaurus, that was the last villain of the era to be released. And again, I think it's going to come down to those 4 Death for Reals: Megalon, Gigan, Titanosaurus, and Jet Jaguar. Don't forget he's coming too. I think it's going to come down between those 4 or who will be the overall Death Row figure of the year. Nothing against the MonsterVerse Con 21 or the new Death Row of Godzilla 2021. But I think it's going to come down to those 470 kaiju as the overall Death Row figure of the year. I'm not doing it. I'm just speculating, but still.
What about the 60? Was it 66 in the menu?
Yeah. Oh,
that looks amazing.
Matt, why'd you say something? Why'd you say something about him?
I'm gonna say that. I want that. That's fierce.
I know Matt's getting it, right, Matt? You getting him right?
Yep.
That's a must.
Yes. Love the 67 Godzilla.
Yeah, so it's gonna be real interesting.
Sorry, no.
It's gonna be really interesting on who will win overall Death Row figure of the year, because we got some strong contenders. Where more so, there's like one like Biollante, she won last year, but the other contenders you kind of like knew that Biollante was going to win. But with those coming, it's gonna be hard to see which one will win in the end. Now, as far as like me on my personal channel of Lesser Chambers Kaiju Reviews, of course, I'm doing a review on him. Don't know when I'll get to him, because I got a lot of stuff recently that I gotta break out some reviews. But I will tell you that the next review will be the Billiken Gargantuous. That will be next. I still got to do a review of the KOC 62 that David painted for me. Of course, I got the KOC 99. I got to do a review for him, and of course this guy. And so I got a few reviews in the works, but the one that's coming up next, of course, is the Billiken Gargantuous. And again, I'm not done with side projects here on Collect All Monsters. We still got to do again, like I said, we're doing the Sakai 91, all 3 versions between myself, John, and Matt. That will be coming at a later date. I talked with Richard Iso last week, and remember a while ago I talked about a versus challenge where I put up some of my prize figures in my collection up against another collectors, and Rich Iso has agreed to go one-on-one with me. So it's going to be Leslie Chambers, Richard Iso in the first ever edition of Collect All Monsters Versus.
Let me make that boxing poster. Yeah, make that for you.
Please do. So more likely we're gonna try and shoot for April. I don't know when, but he agreed to do it, and that will be the first ever versus challenge. Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews versus Fresh Vinyl Reviews. Richard Iso versus Leslie Chambers. Pick a side. We're gonna find out who had the better selection of figures on that day. Of course, I'm doing a discussion with David F. Dotko, Steve Savagoli, and Brutezilla on, our favorite collectibles of the King Goji. King Kong versus Godzilla celebrates 60 years this year, so we got that coming. So we got lots of side projects coming. We have talked amongst ourselves and Collecting Monsters. I got projects coming. John got projects coming. David, Christine, and Kyle, we all got projects coming outside the main show that will hopefully and thoroughly keep y'all entertained for the foreseeable future. And again, thank you for everybody in the chat that is stuck here, that came here, let their voices be heard in the chat, voted for who you thought was the winner, me. And thank y'all so much for being here. And of course, I can't thank you enough to both Matt and John for your awesome and just really breathtaking expertise and thoughts and opinions of Shin Godzilla. And again, outside of the figure stuff, the main purpose of this show was to hopefully, for people who are on the fence about Shin Godzilla, hopefully you can take our, us glorifying it or talking about it positively, and hopefully with our perspectives, hopefully you can take that, rewatch Shin Godzilla, hopefully you can appreciate Shin Godzilla more. All right. So again, thank you for everybody in the chat. Thank you to Matt. Thank you to John. I really do appreciate it. Thank y'all so much. And again, as Kyle does on every single episode of Collect All Monsters at the very end, I'm going to try and do the exact same thing because he has a deep voice. You know that. All right. Our planet may be doomed. Our Earth devastated. The monsters are in revolt. And civilization is in chaos. We must unite and collect all monsters. Thank you, folks. See y'all.